Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Fallout Season 1, Episode 7. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So first and foremost, let's start off with Lucy and Maximus' circumstances. We are immediately picking up in the aftermath of last episode, where Lucy learns the truth about Vault 4, the secret that's kind of been buried here, and that is, I guess, technically speaking, well, the people here aren't the OG Vault Dwellers, or at least not descendants of the OG Vault Dwellers like Lucy was under the impression, because she couldn't figure out, wait, why is Ben the way he is? It doesn't make that sense. If he was a person on a surface, maybe. Granted, she hasn't really come across too many mutations except for like creatures and animals, but not people, not really. So that was kind of the big thing of like, how are you, like, what's going on there? We find out like Lloyd and Cassandra, who we met, was it last episode in the commercial? Yeah, they were the head scientists running things. And I love Lloyd being like, hey, don't let anyone finding this record be kind of an indictment against, there not being regulations to hold the head scientists in charge of all this. Right, we pushed the envelope of, and obviously this is probably going to be used against, letting any scientists remain in charge of anything. But yeah, they were experimenting on people. And turns out Ben is a descendant. Like, in fact, the Gulper that showed up might even be the frozen Gulper that we saw like last episode amongst like some of the test tubes. It's not like they made Gulpers, but they mutated someone into one. Or maybe that's kind of implying that even the Gulper that got killed a couple episodes back, what was it, episode 3? Maybe that was, episode 3 or 2. Maybe that Gulper was actually a person. Maybe that's not an experimented on creature. Maybe that's an experimented on person, or maybe it's a combination of the two. Whatever the case may be, this is what Vault 4 was up to, experimenting on people like this. Now the big question then becomes, well, if this was Vault 4's experiment, what was Vault 31's, 32's, and 33? I mean, you'd assume whatever it is, the people from Vault 31 who came to 33, like a Betty, like a Stephanie, like Norm and Lucy's dad, that maybe that's what their experiments are about, or who knows, or at least play some role, because like, why else would you be going to 33, So, because now this adds context to maybe this is why 32 revolted the way they did. Like, oh, it's like, we know the truth. Like, whatever experiment 32 was up to. And maybe that's also why Betty's going through the trouble of having people relocate to 32, is so trying to get those experiments back up and running. Because now Lucy's like, well, she's like, right, there's no experiments that went on in 33, not that you're aware of. But it's like, yeah, because she had such a, they created an environment so you wouldn't question it. But, obviously it didn't work for Vault 4 because I guess you couldn't keep that secret going forever. All those people in those tubes, those are victims that the doctors try to ease. Like, those who aren't from the surface are all descendants of those experiments who rebelled and basically took over Vault 4. So it's interesting. But now, because Lucy hurt someone, she has to suffer the ramifications, which even I was like, wait, death? I get it, she hurt someone and kind of broke a rule, but I'm like, I guess it just depends. But I was like, does it really warrant death? And you're like, yeah, you have to be sentenced to death by being banished to the surface. And Lucy's like, I love the levity of that moment, because you're like, wait, what? And then he's cutting it. He's just like, come on, no, almost there. We need to make sure we keep this thing sharp going forward. And she's like, wait, you're going to let me go? It's like, yes. It's like, yeah, because, yeah, what's the point? You're going to eventually, something on the surface is going to kill you. So it's like, oh, okay. She's like, that's very nice of you. He's like, all right, so here you go with 2 weeks supplies. I'm like, what is this? I love it so much. That was so good, because I was like, they're even giving you supplies. And she's like, yeah, you guys are very nice. And he's like, fine, because she's like, I just have one thing to say. And he's like, all right, don't worry, we're gonna have someone carry it to the exit for you. I was like, you guys, like, that's actually really chill of you guys. You guys are actually extra nice. That's actually really sweet of you. Like, not only letting her go, you're like, the surface will kill you. That'll be your punishment. But also you're giving her supplies to survive on, and you're not even going to make her carry it all the way to the exit. You're going to have someone else do it. It's like, that's actually pretty chill. But her request was going to be to have Titus be able to stay behind. But he saw her getting dragged away, and Maximus was like, nah, I'm going to steal the fusion core, activate my armor, and come busting in. But it's like, just at the wrong time, just as Lucy was literally making a deal so that you could stay, he's busting up the function. And then she had to stop him. It's like, no, they were letting me go. He's like, really? Oops. He's like, yeah, someone needs to check on that guy immediately. It's like, I mean, it ain't like he activated some weapons. He didn't crush people. He just knocked people back. So he wasn't actively killing people. He probably, like, severely hurt people, but no one's dead that we're aware of. So, yeah, they just end up leaving. And Lucy convinces Maximus to leave behind the fusion core. Because for her, it's like, right, if my dad finds out that I, even in the attempt to save him, stole and doomed a fusion. Because it's like, right, they have a backup generator, but how long will that last without the fusion core? I mean, to be fair, Maximus was willing to do that like last episode. He was ready to just snatch that out and just like go about his business. So, he's not above it. Because he's like, I mean, to be fair, it's also like, right, he's everything that he wants to be. He gets to be a knight. He still hasn't relegated how he's going to handle the whole situation. Even if he managed his way back to the Brotherhood, you'd have to probably stay in that armor and continue to be Titus. Like, Maximus would have to stay dead. You'd also have to make sure you get to Thaddeus before he could report to you. So there's angles to that. But it's like, yeah, like, now that he finally is a knight, he's not willing to let the armor go. Plus, it's like, right, I can do more good in the armor. But Lucy's like, I just can't do that. So they end up dumping it inside the vault. And I love that the lady was cleaning nearby, like, yells up, "Thank you!" And so it's like, cool. And they kind of feel good about it. And I love Lucy kind of inviting him to the vault, her vault. It's like, yeah, we don't have oysters or, caviar or whatever. She said oysters, but it's like, yeah, because like caviar is oyster eggs. I was kind of having that debate last episode. But, she's like, oh, we have canned tuna. And it's like, obviously she's not had the best experience on the surface, but she has actually met someone she believes is a good person, which makes Maximus finally feel guilty about everything. He's like, right, my name's Maximus. The knight guy was threatening me, so I let him die. I took the armor, and yeah, that's why I'm not really the good guy you think I am. And Lucy doesn't judge him because it's like, well, let's not forget she's kind of done some stuff that she's not too proud of. It's like, regardless of even him co-signing it, she still chopped off a dude's head. Once again, got the co-sign from him, but still. And she's also like, yeah, I threw acid in an innocent person's face, and I've only been on the surface for like 2 weeks. So, the wasteland sucks for the most part, so it's kind of like, we're not all perfect. So I thought that was kind of dope. I thought Lucy would have more of an issue, but it's like, yeah, I kind of did some shit I'm not too proud of. And it's not like, once again, not like you killed Titus, you just didn't help him. It sucks. That's not good. But it's better than being like, yeah, I was directly responsible for him dying. I was indirectly responsible for him dying because I didn't willingly help him. So there's that angle to it. So they're, continuing their journey. We end up... So I'm going to circle over to the Cooper side of things, where we pick up with him listening to Moldaver's speech about, like, right... the atom bomb was supposed to be the end of war, but look at the society we're in, because it's like, oh, it's supposed to be a better America, and it's been years, and we see the direction things are going, talking about vault tech and what it represents. Once again, kind of the narrative of, yeah, they're incentivized to basically bring the world to end because they've kind of built their entire business around it, and that becomes a useless model if you don't have the end of the world coming, or really having people afraid of the end of the world. You have to kind of end the world to sell the future, because you are the future beyond the world ending, right? But Coop doesn't believe in all this, because for him it's like it goes against everything he's kind of fought for, which Moldaver's kind of coming from that perspective of like, right, I want your perspective on it, because they're like, if I can change anyone's mind of being yours as someone who fought for this country, watch people you cared about and other fellow soldiers die for this country, changing it, like, that's what makes your message that much more powerful. Not those who are just willing to believe it, but even those who are doubtful, if I'm able to get them swayed to your side. Because it turns out Moldaver's like, oh, I know your wife, because her division ended up buying the company that I worked for. In fact, they bought every company I ever worked for, because she was coming up with the means for, like, infinite energy, and basically they want to shelve that, because it's kind of like the notion of, once again, I don't know how true it is, but you know, the big pharma conversation of, yeah, like we could probably make cures for certain things, but you don't get paid heavily in the cure business. You get kind of in the remedy business of, well, we can't permanently cure it, but we can prolong this whole situation and kind of like give you a temporary cure. Like a perma cure is kind of a one-time deal. It's like you need people coming back over and over again. That's kind of the notion that Moldaver was kind of making for Vault Tech. And it's like, right, your wife is not the person you think she is. I mean, I doubt she's the head of her division, but she could be. So it's not like because we don't know where Barb is amongst the hierarchy of things in like she seems like she's probably like borderline into that executive. I don't want to say. I was about to say like not unless she's on some executive level, but I don't think she's quite that high. But she's probably high enough ranking amongst the division. But I feel like Moldaver would have been like she herself bought it if it was her division that did it. So she's probably still on the lower end of the totem pole, but she is probably a lot more aware of what's going on than she's willing to admit. And so Moldaver is convincing Cooper to spy and like use a listening device on his wife, which he's extremely reluctant to do because he trusts his wife. But you know, it starts kind of waning on him, all the stuff that was said, because I mean, even he himself has a lot of reservations when it comes to Vault Tech. I mean, it doesn't help that Moldaver kind of took a shot at his pride by being like, oh, how much did you sell out for Vault Tech? Like, once again, he's already having to deal with that with fellow colleagues, like viewing him that certain way. So of course that's going to irk him a little, but he's also got a lot of questions. So he activates it and decides to throw it away, but he picks it up later on because he was looking at his dog and being like, right, no dog. Because like, once again, little things of the argument he had brought up previously with Barb had kind of gotten reignited. Yes, he's using the example of the dog, but it's a larger conversation of who gets to dictate these rules and who gets to change them, you know, at the last second to be whatever they want to. Like, who is this person? You know, especially in a company that's kind of in this future that's supposed to be run by scientists, you know, so that's where we kind of leave off there. Present day, we had actually gotten the opening of the episode where Cooper was waiting in that farmer guy's house or whatever, and I think the guy was a farmer, maybe not. I can't remember like how the opening fully began, but he's up there eating stuff, and the guy's assuming it's his daughter, but it turns out nah. Like, oh, he's like, oh, you thought I ate your child? It's like, nah, come on, cut me some slack. It's like, yeah, but we know ghouls can and would eat people. I mean, they can eat each other, but you know, despite, you know, having been a father of a daughter himself, like, you'd assume that'd be reason enough for him not to do it, but he's not above killing kids because he ends up killing that guy's 2 kids. It's like, oh yeah, your son Rufus got him. He was kind of working for Moldaver, and turns out he convinced your old Tommy over here to work with him too, because they're the ones who set up the whole arrangement for a carrier to, like, someone to bring Wilzog to Moldaver. So like they kind of orchestrated that. So but after getting the information about where Moldaver was going to go, Coop was going to leave, but he's also like, will I actually be able to leave, or will you try and take a shot at me, Tommy? Which Tommy's dad was like, no, he's not going to do it. It's like, yeah, he might not take the shot now, but who's to say he won't eventually? And Tommy reaches for the gun and Coop puts him down. I was like, I almost halfway expected you to kill the entire family, because this is and the thing that immediately came to my mind was like, was it the Fairy Tale Queen? What was her? I think that was her name in the Harley Quinn animated series, of saying like, you need to wipe out the entire bloodline, because if you leave someone alive, they're going to come back and seek vengeance. It's like, well, the whole point was killing Tommy because you killed Rufus, and Tommy would have come after you. But it's like, well, he still has a sister who could potentially come after you, or a father. But maybe it's also, well, because he knew the father, because he was like, I forgot what he was saying, kind of like, oh, like you took a shot at me or something like that. I still have, because they're lead farmers. That's what it was. And it's like, I still have some lead in me from you. So it's like him and Cooper have crossed paths in some shape or form. And so I guess Coop has probably instilled some fear in him. So he's like, you'll never cross me because you know what's going to happen. Because you draw on me, that's going to be a losing battle for you. But who knows what that means for the sister. So Coop leaves, eventually catches up to where Thaddeus was originally. He left the dog there, which that was sad. He's even like, oh, if you were a human, you'd have no friends. All you do is eat and bite what you want. So he put him inside of like essentially like those little Coke machine things. He just put him in there and kind of left him. He did kind of come off contagious. He's like, can you breathe in here? Okay, good. It's just like, hey, at least you weren't trying to leave him there to die, but it's still, you were essentially leaving him there to die regardless. So you just were going to let him die slowly if he like starved and suffocated potentially. It's like, oh, you can breathe in there, but still, it's like, that sucks. Also, we got to look at Thaddeus's foot, which I'm like, I don't know if I'm just like, I've always been able to handle gore and stuff like that, but I was like, I don't know if I've just gotten more squeamish when I've gotten older. I mean, it's not like I was like completely, I was kind of disgusted, but I'm also like, oh, that's so gnarly and disgusting. Like his toe is literally hanging on by fleshy tendons and threads. You're like, ugh. It's like, holy shit, your shit is fucked, homie. Yeah, it's like, that is... The moment we saw the bloody suck, I was like, oh, how bad is it going to be? And you see it, you're like, ugh, homie, it's worse. I don't know if it's just that angle, but if you see, when you look at it later on, you can see even more discoloration at the top of the foot. You're like, oh, that looks like that's gangrene or something. It's like, that shit is super infected. But it looked like like I said earlier, it didn't look as greenish near the back of the foot, but it looked more greenish later on when he's taking his sock off. So I don't know if, like, to be fair, he's like walking into different environments. It's not getting treated and it's extra super infected, and he's dragging it everywhere and stepping on it. So that's making it worse. So he's on his way, and he ends up coming across that snake oil salesman who was literally about to kill himself until he came across. I have to stop myself too, because every time I'm about to try to say Thaddeus' name, I almost want to say Johnny. Johnny being, the comedian who plays Thaddeus is like, that's his real name. And Johnny's last name Pemberton? Yeah, I believe so. Either way, I just think I was like, okay, how is this all going to go? Seems like he's full of shit. Let's not forget this is the same chicken fucker from earlier in this series. So, yeah. Guy, not the best person to trust. And you hand over the fusion core, which I'm like, oh, that could be useful. And it's not like Maximus could make use of it, considering they'd have to go all the way back for the armor, so it's kind of a moot point. So, yeah, might as well make some use out of it. And the moment he actually gives something that Thaddeus, I was like, did he poison you or something? Like, what's going on here? And then his foot magically heals. I was like, there's got to be some bullshit associated with that. And then he was like, oh, the direction of the radio tower, you got to go past like Shady Sands. He's like, oh, that place is like radioactive, yada yada. He's like, oh, you won't have to worry about that anymore. I was like, wait, did he just turn you into a fucking ghoul? And we find out, yes, that ends up being a fact. Like, the fact is, he was like, oh, you don't have to worry about the radiation and yada yada. I'm like, okay, you've definitely become a ghoul now or something. So, I don't know, like, if that's what ended up happening to all other ghouls, including Cooper, or was it some concoction he made that made him into a ghoul, or... that's what I'm so curious about. Is that how other ghouls are made, or were they made the more natural way, where he was kind of made as... Now, Thaddeus is being made into the more, like, concoction-based... I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like you have a rapid healing factor, but the end result is you're a ghoul, so... Which, Thaddeus will have to be careful, because we've seen what... Like, unless he gets the medication for... Once again, it takes a while before it kicks in, before you'll need the medication like Cooper does and other ghouls that have reached that point will. Like, so he hasn't reached that point yet. So, but yeah, there is no coming back from it. He's a ghoul through and through, so... But I love that he makes it to the radio tower, where the guy is playing, like, the compilation of fiddle stuff. And I love that it's like, lo and behold, DJ Carl, was that his name? Played by freaking Fred Armisen, which I'm like, I love him just popping up in because like when I saw him pop up as this DJ, I was like, it made me immediately think of him. It's not even a spoiler. I won't say what the context is, but if you've never seen Barry, he pops up in the 4th season of Barry for like a scene, and you're like, what the fuck? That seems so random to have Fred Armisen, like, not only in the show and episode, but also in that role. Same thing for another surprise cameo, being like, fucking Guillermo del Toro played a cameo in Barry. I was like, what the fuck? You know? But I'm also like, that has to be like Barry, like that's Barry, Jesus. That has to be like Bill Hader calling in favors with people he knows. I think he say like Guillermo del Toro reached out to him like wanting to be in Barry. I think he said Guillermo del Toro actually reached out for that. Whatever the case may be, I'm going on a massive tangent, but it's just like, yeah, just like, I think it's so funny just seeing Fred Armisen just pop up in these small roles like this. It's just like, what the fuck, dude? And I love the whole back and forth where it's just like, yeah, oh, fiddles, and people don't know good music, so people are irritated by it. And it's like, well, he has to be super like, well, Thaddeus has to be super cool about all this, considering like all the traps that he has around. We see like giant bear traps that are people trapped in and stuff. It's like, oh shit. It's like, cool. Like as long as you stay on his side, he's like, oh yeah, like the low, the highs, and the middles, the mids. And it's like, oh yeah, it's the middle. You know, it's like just like that conversation. And then lo and behold, we have the stories converge where Lucy and Maximus showed up, and then Thaddeus proceeds to like shoot. I was like, I love that. I was like, every time we were focusing on him shooting at them, but we're not cutting back to them. What the hell is going on? And we cut back to them, and he missed every single shot. He's like, fuck, I suck without a scope. Because I was like, that feels like that's supposed to be an inside joke for, kind of an inside joke for, like, the games. Because, like, the guns are modifiable in that, if I'm not mistaken. So I was like, you can I mean, you know, it's a third-person shooter. Well, obviously, later ones are third person. Well, is it first person all the way through? Aren't there? Or am I thinking about like mods that make it so you can see the third person? It's like they're first person all the way through, aren't they? Once again, that just shows you how limited. Because I'm like, I know some are first person, but I don't know if they're all first person. I think they all are first person, but maybe there's mods that let you do third person. Whatever the case may be, they're shooter games, right? So I was like, right, you having like that's got to be like a video game thing of like, oh yeah, I don't have a scope equipped, so I suck ass at aiming, you know. But it's like, yeah, let's just be cool. Give us the head and we could just be on our way. He gets an arrow to the neck. Which I'm feeling stupid because I'm like, it's not the same thing, but I'm also like, that can't be like a little winking nod to like the old Skyrim meme. Like, well, it's not even it's not Skyrim. Is it Oblivion? Where the fuck does that meme come from? I was an adventurer until I took an arrow to the knee, right? What is that from? Is that Skyrim or is that Oblivion? It's one of the Elder Scroll games. It's like an old meme from one of those. And I'm like, I mean, once again, obviously that's like the Elder Scroll games are made by Bethesda, which the Fallout games are also made by Bethesda. So I'm like, I don't know if that was... Once again, an arrow shooting someone. It's like, oh, in Thaddeus' case, it's like, oh, I was a random member. I was a squire of the Brotherhood until I took an arrow to the neck in this particular case. That's why I'm like, I'm probably reaching so far for that, but it just feels like it's just Bethesda and taking an arrow. Just it felt like that was what it was. Like I said, that's just probably me reaching for something that's not the case. But regardless, but that's where Thaddeus finds out. Cool, I'm a ghoul, but the problem is, if I return to the Brotherhood, I'm fucked because they will kill me. So give him an opportunity to run, and lo and behold, it's like, yeah, we both know that the Brotherhood's not the greatest organization. So Maximus decides to pick up a different head, bash it up a little bit, try to hide its face so that they're not able to identify it as not Wilzog's. Gives the real head to Lucy and tells her to go try and save her dad. And the two kiss. And I love that Fred Armisen's character is just kind of staring like, ooh. And then when they start kissing more, it's like, ooh, kind of like, ooh, the passion. And I'm like, I love that we're just cutting his reactions for no goddamn reason. But nevertheless, it's like, yeah, like, he wants her to save her dad. And she's like, right, we promised to go to Vault 33 together. He's like, yeah, just wait for me. So you're like, we'll see how that turns out because we don't know what Vault 33 circumstances are going to be at the end of this season. But yeah, he's waiting for the Brotherhood. So how is that going to play out considering, like, right, Titus reported in that Maximus was dead. So maybe how is he going to spin that? We'll ultimately have to wait to see. So that's going to be interesting to see. Then there's also back at Vault 33, after passing some food back and forth, after getting, we're just seeing that like a montage of sorts of food being given to the prisoners, and they finally drop dead, which is so interesting because I'm like, like I said, I would have suspected them dying so much earlier in the show. Like the moment Norm suggested it, I would have thought they were dead because I thought Norm was going to kill them, but they ended up surviving and ended up sending Norm on his path of discovery about the vault. So that was intriguing. But that's also the thing I'm so confused by, because like, why did Betty wait so long to kill them? Like, she's obviously responsible for that. Well, I mean, other people, like Stephanie had just as much motive too, which I can only assume, like, if she's from Vault 31, I wonder was her husband from Vault 31 as well? Or was he a 33er and she just wanted to manipulate Norm into killing them, but he never did, so it kind of was up to them? I mean, it could also be the fact is now that they've spruced up Vault 32, now it's time, like now they're moving further in their plans, they need to get rid of any hindrances, and these people know a little too much, so maybe that's the thought process. I have no idea. Like, it just seems interesting that now would be the time you do it, but because like now you're like relocating people, so we look at the division of who gets to stay in 33, who moves to 32. Does seem interesting that you would have Norm stay at 33, but it's like, well, maybe it's because, well, no, because like obviously we have people from 31 being sent, like Stephanie, but Stephanie ends up being made, you know, overseer, which came as no surprise because amongst the group moving to 32, we know that she's like at least might be the only 31 amongst them. Like I said, we don't even know if her husband was, which I also haven't commented on it too much of, just like how Chet is just immediately involved in that situation. Initially it was like, oh, you're dressing up like my dead hubby, but now I guess we've moved past that because he's not dressing up like him anymore. I mean, I guess you're not really having sex anymore, but it's like, right, you've kind of latched on to him to kind of be the, he's not the stepfather, he's the father that stepped up type of situation. So, which Norm calls Chet out because he's like, oh, you're relocating. He's like, yeah, we kind of all are. It's like, yeah, you're kind of a coward. He's like, yeah, Norm, we all are. That's why we're all living in vaults. It's like, ooh, I was like, oh, that's kind of a very poignant line. But it's like, yeah, he was going to turn a blind eye to everything that we discovered. I mean, once again, you saw it for yourself. They cleaned the hell up out of Vault 32. We know there's stuff they're keeping secret. Like, we know something's going on here, but Chet would rather turn a blind eye to it because it's like, right, whatever it is, who cares? Just it gets a fresh start away from everything. It's like, it's not that fresh of a start because like all the shit that went down in Vault 33, well, you're relocating to 32 where some other shit went down that other people there aren't fully aware of because they think like, oh, that was just the Raiders and stuff, but we know like, no, they were dead long before the Raiders got there. Like they were like ripping and killing each other, if not killing themselves. So makes you wonder if like the person who was management, the person that was in that room, like I'd assume that was the overseer, which if that person was the overseer, it could only mean that they were from Vault 31 as well, if I remember correctly. So I don't know if we ever really fully, like I said, I just associated that person with management, but overseers are the managers, so I can only assume that person was from Vault 31 as well. But yeah, like, why keep Norm in 33 unless it's like Betty needed to specifically keep an eye on him, but once again, it's also because of his dad, so I don't know. But Norm decides I love that when they were planning on relocating everyone, when 32 is about to move on, home dude, I don't remember if it's Reg or if it's Woody, I keep flipping those two, that one of them be like, yeah, no, I'm staying, this is my home, and they kind of block his path, and he's like, yeah, sorry about that, sorry, I just kind of had a freak out there for a moment, I'm ready to go. So, that while they're doing that, he, as everyone leaves, Norm sneaks in, hacks into the system, and sends a message to 31's overseer and pretends to be Betty, saying like, oh, I need an extraction. So goes to Vault 31 and they open the door. He goes in. I think it's really interesting that there's no like welcome party or anything like that to confirm that it's actually Betty on the other side. Which makes me wonder, is it going to be like a robot or AI system? Can we hear something kind of mechanical that he's looking at the end and then we get to cut the credits? But what did Norm see? Like, once again, it feels like it might be an automated system. So I'm like, are we dealing with like an AI situation? Is there a live person involved with the 31 Vault situation? We will ultimately have to wait to see where the hell this season 1 finale is going to take us, which is the next episode, how this is all going to wrap up, and ultimately what it will set up for season 2. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.